Hello from New Hampshire, where the numbers from last night tell the story for the next few days and set the stage for the rest of the campaign. It's not enough to say Barack Obama and Mike Huckabee won, or that frontrunners Hillary Clinton and Mitt Romney lost, but also how and why it happened. After a muddled, uncertain run-up to the caucuses, the numbers were decisive. On the Democratic side of the ledger, Barack Obama won with 38%. John Edwards came in second with 30%, and Hillary Clinton was third with 29%. And on the Republican side, Mike Huckabee won the night with 34%. Mitt Romney clocked in at 25%, and Fred Thompson and John McCain got 13% each. Two casualties, Democrats Joe Biden and Chris Dodd. Dan Boss, let's start by talking about the Democrats. Barack Obama didn't just win. He won women, he won men, he won from every area of the state of Iowa. How did he do it?
Well, he did it with a very interesting campaign, Gwen. He started out with a message of hope and inspiration, but then he ran into a little bit of a trough over the summer. And suddenly in the late fall, he caught his voice. He got his voice, he got wind. He gave a terrific speech at the Jefferson-Jackson dinner in November, and that seemed to set him on a course. And the other thing he did was he had a marvelous field organization, which reached out. They had 37 field offices, more than anybody had put in the state. They did very innovative things in trying to reach out to voters, and they were able to help swell this electorate to numbers that they'd never seen before out there. There were 239,000 people who participated in the caucus. That compares to 124,000 4 years ago.
So Karen, who are all these new voters? They were young people? They were just people who never bothered to caucus before?
They were everybody, and extraordinary numbers of people who had never bothered to caucus before. And of course, one of the great, what are supposed to be the ironclad rules of Iowa is that, you know, people who haven't caucused before won't turn out. This is just an exercise for party regulars, the people who, you know, spend their time doing phone banks and walking precincts as you know, that's their idea of fun. But in fact, this seems to have been a contest that captured absolutely everyone's imagination.
People seem to be skeptical, even to the end that this idea, John, would work, that you could come up with new voters and that therefore when Iowa, Hillary Clinton spent a lot of money. She punched all the buttons that you're supposed to punch in Iowa, and yet she came up way short.
She did come up way short. And when Obama caught his voice, as Dan was talking about, was also the time that Hillary Clinton started to fall. And she started to fall in that big question that we always knew was a vulnerability for her, but that the other candidates worried about how to take advantage of. And that was this question of authenticity, of truthfulness. And she had a very bad debate in Philadelphia that created an opening, and both of them took advantage of it. One event, I was with Obama the day before the election, and he taunted the crowd. He said, the pundits say you're not going to show up. And they said, we will. And he said, no, they say you won't show up. And they nearly rushed the stage. And he said, well, I think you're going to show up. And he did.
Let's talk about the Republicans for a minute, because Mike Huckabee was outspent, as he will be happy to tell you, 20-1 in this campaign, and yet he ran away with it in Iowa.
He was not only outspent, he had Rush Limbaugh against him, he had all of the Republican establishment against him, and he did great, you know, and he had this great Romney, the folks were talking about their organization, it was very just sort of like Romney himself, corporate structured, methodical, and Huckabee's this freewheeling guy who, you know, has this magic of his own, and he beat back not just Mitt Romney, but a lot of the Republican establishment, which means a crazy Republican race got a whole lot crazier.
You know, it's interesting, we go back and forth and we have to relearn this lesson about Iowa all the time because we're so focused on the fact that they're caucuses and they require organization, and, you know, the candidate that has put the best organization together always wins. You know, in truth, it's message and passion and energy, and that's what Huckabee had. I was at an event that he had out at the Ballroom in sort of West Des Moines. He had Chuck Norris there. They had rock and roll. I mean, it was the Baptist rocker on stage. But this crowd, there were, you know, 1,500 or 1,800 people, not a sort of typical Republican-looking crowd. He's drawing a different kind of Republican and conservative crowd, and he had the energy.
And he's an exceptionally good communicator, touching the heart of a lot of people. When he got up on that stage, I was at the same event that Dan is. He made the point that you know, I'm not part of the ruling class, I'm part of the serving class. This country belongs to people like you. That was not your corporate Chamber of Commerce or Wall Street Republican crowd at all. There are a lot of those people in the Republican Party. 60% of the caucus electorate on the Republican side were conservative Christians. That was a great asset.